The first thing I noticed was the heat rising off the road in soft waves, the kind that makes the world look fragile, like it could bend if you stared too long. I was already late for work, already frustrated with a life that felt stuck in neutral, when I saw the familiar blue sedan pulled over beneath a neem tree, its hood lifted like a silent cry for help. That was the moment everything changed, though I had no idea yet. One small decision on an ordinary afternoon would quietly rewrite the meaning of kindness, loyalty, and healing in my life. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of helping someone when it matters most, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. The woman standing by the car was Meera Joshi, my best friend Arav's mother. I had known her since school days, since afternoons spent at their house with sunlight spilling across the floor and the smell of cardamom tea in the air. She had always been warm, steady, the kind of person who remembered birthdays and asked about dreams without judging them. Seeing her there, stranded and visibly shaken, felt wrong, like seeing a lighthouse flicker during daylight. I pulled over without thinking, the engine of my own car ticking as it cooled, and walked toward her with the uneasy feeling that life was about to ask something of me. The car had overheated, steam whispering out from beneath the hood. Meera looked tired, not just from the breakdown but from something heavier that sat behind her eyes. The midday sun caught the silver strands in her hair, and I realized how much time had passed since the days when she seemed invincible. Arav had moved to another city months ago for work, and his absence had changed the shape of their household. I offered help in the only way I could, checking the engine, calling a local mechanic, standing there so she would not be alone. It felt small, almost insignificant, yet she exhaled like someone finally allowed to rest. As we waited for assistance, time stretched. Traffic hummed by, vendors shouted in the distance, and the world carried on with its daytime urgency. Meera spoke about ordinary things without ever turning them into conversations, about errands she still needed to run, about the heat, about how cars always seemed to break down at the worst moments. But beneath her calm words was a loneliness that pressed gently against the air between us. I realized then that helping her was not just about fixing a car, it was about standing beside someone whose life had quietly grown heavier. The mechanic arrived, the problem was manageable, and the crisis passed. Yet before leaving, Meera invited me to visit that weekend, suggesting a simple afternoon stop, just the two of us, since Arav would still be away. The invitation was casual, almost practical, but it stayed with me long after I drove away. My life had been a series of half-finished plans and postponed dreams. I worked a job that paid the bills but fed nothing inside me. I had grown used to moving through days without feeling truly needed. That small invitation felt like an open door I did not know whether to walk through. Saturday arrived bright and clear, the kind of day that feels honest. I debated going, questioning my intentions, worrying about boundaries, about what people might think, about whether I was reading too much into a simple request. In the end, I went because kindness had already led me this far, and turning back felt like betraying something important. Meera's house looked the same as always, bathed in sunlight, quiet without Arav's laughter echoing down the hallway. The afternoon unfolded gently. We sat in the living room where the curtains filtered the daylight into soft patterns on the walls. Meera moved slowly, deliberately, like someone relearning how to take up space in her own life. She shared stories of her younger days, of raising a son while balancing responsibilities that never seemed to end, of how silence had grown louder since Arav left. I listened, not as a guest or a friend's child, but as another human being witnessing her truth. There was no drama, no sudden revelation, only the deep, steady presence of two people finding comfort in shared stillness. As hours passed, something inside me shifted. I saw how often we overlook the quiet struggles of those we think are strong. I thought about my own mother, my own fears of becoming invisible, of being defined only by what I could fix or provide. Helping Mira with her car had been easy. Sitting with her, really seeing her, was harder. It required patience, humility, and the courage to be present without trying to solve everything. The days that followed were different. Mira did not become dependent, nor did I feel obligated. Instead, there was a mutual understanding that kindness creates its own kind of bond, one that does not demand more than it gives. I found myself visiting occasionally in the daytime, helping with small tasks, sharing tea, listening to stories that deserved to be heard. Arav called once, grateful that someone had been there for his mother when he could not be. His trust meant more than he probably realized. Through these moments, my own life began to change. I started noticing opportunities to help others without expecting anything in return. I volunteered at a local workshop, mentored a younger colleague, called my parents more often. The emptiness I had felt slowly filled with purpose. It was not a dramatic transformation, but a quiet realignment, like a car finally running smoothly after a long struggle. One afternoon, weeks later, Mira thanked me in a way that went beyond words. She spoke about how isolated she had felt, how the simple act of someone showing up in the daylight had reminded her that life still held warmth. I understood then that kindness does not always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it is a hand on the hood of a broken car, a shared afternoon, a willingness to listen when the world feels too loud. Just before we reach the end of this story, I want to ask something special. If you are listening right now, take a moment to comment the word kindness below and share where you are watching from. Your words matter more than you think, and they help build a community rooted in compassion. As I walked away from Mira's house that day, the sun high and steady above me, I felt lighter. Not because I had done something extraordinary, but because I had allowed myself to be part of someone else's journey. Life did not suddenly become perfect. Challenges remained, doubts returned, and the future stayed uncertain. But I carried with me the knowledge that kindness creates ripples we may never fully see. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you should check on, or encouraged you to show up for another person in your life, please like this video, share it, and engage with us. Your support keeps these stories alive on Kindness Touch, and together we can remind the world that even the smallest acts of care can change everything.